the point that I'll leave with is, as we've discussed throughout this entire course, finance is critical for the proper functioning of society
as we know it.
Absolutely. And places where people are free, where they're educated, where, basically the places you'd want to live, you'd want to travel to, you'd want to go, those are places that have a highly functioning financial sector. Yeah. And so I think it's imperative for us to realize that it's just critical to do this right, to do it well, to see this not just be a money-making exercise, but to actually have some social purpose to what they're doing, right? The history of banks, it's super important, right? It's about trust, it's about safety, it's about stability in society. And I'm just wondering whether or not we've gone so far with something like algorithmic trading that's beyond.
Well, and that, to be frank, that's only going to be the tip of the iceberg.
Right, exactly.
And
meaning the algorithmic trading that as it is today is only the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of where technology interfaces with traditional financial services, I mean, it's already the change is already starting to happen. Yeah. But algorithmic trading, high frequency trading is is something that seems sexy because it splashes on like different newspapers and magazines. It's related to financial markets directly, and so people tend to think of it as something very interesting. But the general idea of what's happening, the structural change that those kind of technologies are making to financial markets and how banks and financial institutions operate, that's just going to be an ongoing process that will actually continue and compound with speed over time as these new technologies permeate different functions that happen in banks. And so the questions that you're raising are absolutely correct. And so on one hand, and it raises a whole host of a variety of different societal issues, right? So right now, the financial industry as a whole is a large employer of a lot of people globally. Yeah. How is the displacement of this labor going to affect employment?
Yeah, we talk about truck drivers. The reality is a lot of people in finance themselves are going to be displaced.
And so, though increasingly, if you look at the distribution of employment at large investment banks, large financial institutions, increasingly the percentage of people in technology is much higher than it was 10, 15, 20 years ago. Yeah. And so that kind of trend will continue, which is indicative of that a lot of the roles that people are in increasally are not necessarily pure finance roles, but more kind of hybrid role that your buddy, that your friend is in, and so that's one huge societal issue that people have to think about. I think to the more broader foundational point, that is one of the core parts of our course is like this idea of broader purpose. That's a really interesting discussion to have in the context of a financial institution, because by default, they should be profit maximizing, right? By just the very nature of what they're doing, and that yet we want to ask them to be more than that. Yeah. Which I think is fair, right? Because I think the great role that they have in of how they are basically the fuel in many respects of society and of mobility, of social mobility, both individually for people like yourself, like you mentioned, buying a home and being able to get a bank loan, or to countries that will look at like Kenya or Myanmar that rely on larger financial, at the macro level, financial institutions to be able to move up from a developing to closer to a developed nation. That the engine and the fuel for that engine is largely pushed by aspects of finance.
So I like that. So if you think of law as kind of the infrastructure for society, the foundation, finance is largely the fuel, right? And so so again, the main concepts we're talking about in this course: trust, accountability, right? The idea that there's something of higher value. These are the things that we're going to be focusing on within the entrepreneurs and enterprises that are utilizing FinTech, hopefully for some broader social purpose. It's important to understand that there's no way to know whether or not these companies we're going to use as examples are going to be doing things the right way or wrong way, if there even is such a thing. They're definitely going to stumble along the way. But the point is, we want to look at ways that you can kind of build purpose into your business model so that hopefully we can all kind of move towards a better, more inclusive society.
And to kind of capstone all of that, like our discussion about utopian society, and we said there's the structural part of it, and there's the other stakeholders, the government and laws, but ultimately it's going to be about the people. And so I think to that point exactly, the founders, the people who are leading these organizations, starting these organizations, hopefully, in addition to what they're trying to do to make the business profitable, they also kind of listen to the call of trying to be more purpose-driven. Yeah. I think the combination of that will help us get to a place where, in an ideal world, hopefully, or closer to an ideal world of this utopian that we've been talking about.
Exactly.